Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. So we are doing the Modern Women's Health Summit. All the next couple of weeks, we are talking to leading experts in the field of women's health and nutrition about some of the topics that we all are dealing with and facing in day-to-day life. Modern society, unfortunately, does not make it easy for us to be healthy. And so we have a lot of amazing experts out in the field who have come up with strategies and really amazing tips to help us navigate this. So today we are talking to Terri Ward. This is such an important topic that we are discussing today. We're going to talk about the importance of testing your hormones before you opt for surgery, which you would think that would be a given, but it's not always. So we're going to talk about why sometimes that doesn't happen, and we're going to really dig into this. So Terri, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So for anyone who's not familiar with Terri, she is from Terri Ward Nutrition and Wellness. She's a certified nutritionist with a Master of Science in Human Nutrition and Functional Medicine. And Terri helps Christians struggling with autoimmune and other chronic diseases. Clients from around the globe come to her sick, tired, confused, and frustrated. We've all been there by previous failed advice. And Terri shares powerful lessons connecting scripture and science, helping them feel alive and inspired with abundant energy to fulfill their life's purpose. So thank you so much for joining us, Terri. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Yes, me too.
So I know many of us get into nutrition, because of our own health struggles. And I know that was the case for you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of your background before you discovered nutrition, like before you knew all of this? Where were you? Were you dealing with any things? And kind of what were your beliefs back then?
Well, I've been a believer in good nutrition probably since I first heard a speech in my high school health class. But back then, I believed all of the dogma that's promoted by the government and the media. And so unfortunately, I was consuming a good deal of whole wheat and dairy products, which I eventually learned were the biggest culprits in making me sick. I am a recovering CPA, and I loved taxes. I'm grateful for having a successful career in that, but the long hours and the stress of tax season eventually took their toll on my body, and I knew I wanted to do something else. I took a cross-country road trip and just kind of had this aha moment and my paradigm shift, because I realized that my health issues weren't a curse. They were a blessing, because they forced me to make the changes that ultimately made me healthier. And that was when I realized that's what I wanted to do besides tax, was help other people use nutritional therapy and lifestyle changes.
That's fantastic. So do you want to share anything about kind of your personal health struggles, or we can kind of dive into the people watching and how this kind of relates to them?
I'll share a little. I think gluten was probably the biggest culprit. It was the final key that actually started the healing process. It looks like, from my history, and my gastroenterologist agreed, that I probably had celiac since I was a child. Mm-hmm. And all those years of it being undiagnosed is what led to fibromyalgia, possibly the adenomyosis that I had. Okay. Just a whole slew of things, really, because there are a lot of bad things that celiac can cause if it's left untreated. And I am not diagnosed because I refuse to put it back in my diet to be diagnosed. I know before I leave a restaurant if I've been gluten. So if I'm not celiac, I'm extremely gluten sensitive. But yeah, it was after my daughter was first granddaughter was born, and she had the issues, that we started kind of uncovering it in the family. So that was a blessing to finally get that missing link,
Sure. So her struggling with some things and finding out that she is celiac?
She was tested.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, from the get-go, every time my daughter would nurse her, she would scream, and you could feel her intestines cramping up. And she had eliminated dairy because my daughter had a problem with dairy from birth, but that only made a slight improvement. And a friend said, you've got to eliminate gluten. And then when my daughter started just dropping weight like crazy and her stool turned white, she's like, I have celiac disease. And so she eliminated gluten, and the baby went from, what the medical doctors would have called colicky to just as happy as can be, unless my daughter accidentally ate gluten and then nursed her.
Wow. So that struggle kind of showed the whole family that this is something that might be going on for all of you.
My son admitted that he had problems, especially after drinking beer. And I knew I felt better if I didn't eat wheat. But, wheat's just a piece, of trying to reduce it. That doesn't cut it. You have to totally eliminate all gluten.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some things that you know now that you wish you had known back then?
Oh, boy. Gluten and dairy, for sure. I wish I had known they weren't the health foods that we're led to believe that they are. I think that my son would likely have not needed his tonsils and adenoids removed because he missed 24 days of school in second grade. Just chronic ear and throat infections. Nobody told me to try eliminating dairy. He has a horrible dairy allergy. And, after we had the adenoids out because they were chronically inflamed, he only missed 2 days in third grade. So, it worked, but the dairy he had to eliminate dairy later anyway. So I wish we hadn't done that.
Sure.
All of our organs are there for a reason.
Yeah. And it's hard because now, but you didn't know back then. And
no,
it's very unlikely anyone would have ever mentioned that was an option.
Yeah. And I do wish that I had known to ask for hormonal testing before I had my hysterectomy and my oophorectomy. In fact, I wish I'd have known a little more. Well, if I'd have been tested with a full hormonal panel, I would have known that my adrenals aren't up to snuff. They're just not pulling their weight. And so I didn't know that I had an adenomyosis. I just knew that we'd tried all kinds of things, and I had a lot of pain. I kept telling my daughter, I want that nerve cut that goes from my uterus to my low back.
Yeah.
She's a chiropractor. So I tell her those kinds of things. Like, you don't, mother. And I delayed the decision after it was recommended for like 4 years, because I do believe that all those organs, are there for a reason, our glands, everything. But I also had ovarian cysts that were really painful. So when I finally said, let's do the hysterectomy, I said, do the oophorectomy too. That I had. The pain after the hysterectomy was gone. So that was awesome. You don't usually know you have adenomyosis until they do the pathology in a hysterectomy. So
yeah. Do you want to quickly share for anyone watching who doesn't know what adenomyosis is, just kind of a quick definition for them?
The easiest way to explain it is it's like endometriosis, but it doesn't go outside the uterus. It goes into the wall of the uterus, so that's where all the pain comes from. But just removing the uterus can solve that one, unlike endometriosis. Once I had my ovaries out, then I realized that my adrenals weren't going to pick up any slack, and so I'm a huge advocate of bioidentical hormone replacement.
Yeah, I'm sure that saved you.
Yeah, it still does. They don't usually recommend doing it long term or after menopausal age, but I tried it for almost a year and it wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
So as long as someone will prescribe them, I'm going to stay on them.
Sure. So why is it so important for women to have their hormones tested? before making
Well,
a decision like this?
yeah, we're all individual. Each of us is unique. So they have these ranges for hormones. And with hormones, a little tiny change can make a huge difference. And so what's normal for you might not be normal for me. So you want to establish your baseline, your normal, so that when you start supplementing afterward, you're aiming for the right goalpost. That's what you do. And then if you're doing replacement, you need to monitor it too, because again, little tiny changes can make huge differences in your body.
Right. Do you feel like you would have made a different decision if you had testing back then? Did you have any testing done?
No testing. I didn't even have any testing afterward until I finally said, I'm not taking this synthetic hormone anymore. I'm going to a naturopath to get some bioidentical because I want to stay on it longer. And I don't care what they say, if the molecular structure is the same. Our bodies know the difference between synthetic and bioidentical, or even the ones that we make. Our bodies are pretty darn smart. And so that was what I did. And I was told they would do testing. I had to go change doctors within the clinic to the one who would do it because she had to do the testing. But I went for years without testing. And I finally felt some changes in me that I thought, I want testing. Unfortunately, my nurse practitioner is really good about ordering tests that I want. She'll just say, well, your insurance might not pay for it. And I'll say, that's fine. I want it. So I think that's what's really important. It has to be a priority. She knows when I ask for something, I know why I want it. I'm not just saying, oh, let's try this.
Right, right. She knows to trust your judgment on that. That's great that she gives you the option. So in that kind of line, there are more and more doctors these days that are holistic minded, that will have these conversations with their patients, clients. But what advice would you have for someone who is struggling? They know something is wrong, but they're having a hard time getting these tests done. Like how can we start having better conversations with our providers to find the answers that we need?
Well, I'm just so happy that there are more and more that are open to it. I am a huge advocate of functional medicine. So if you can find a functional medicine practitioner or a naturopathic physician, then you're going to probably have a similar philosophy. But if you don't have those options, some people don't where they live, just go in armed with information and be your own advocate. You have to be assertive in being your own advocate always if you want to be a healthy person in this society. It's just the way it works. You don't want to get into an argument with your doctor by any means and do your best not to make him feel the least bit defensive, but just stand your ground and say, no, I really, really want these tests. And here's why. And then, say, well, if you're not going to order them, I can get them direct. There are labs that will do patient direct, but I would prefer that the results were sent to you and that we can discuss them. So that would be the approach that I would take.
That's great advice. And that's a great reminder for people to really be their own advocates. Because if you're not getting the support you need, you've got to be the one to stand up for yourself and get that support. So what are some other common roadblocks that you see that get in the way of people really being able to make an informed decision in the first place?
Noise. I think we are such an information age that there's just so much going on out there. There's so much conflicting advice and information. And granted, even among functional medicine practitioners, there's differences of opinion. In nutrition, there's differences of opinion. But you have to decide what your philosophy is and find someone you trust to align with in that. Because if you're just bouncing around between different people, then you're going to be confused. And confusion leads to not acting. So I think for probably perimenopausal and menopausal. Christine Northrup has a couple really great books.
Oh, great. We can link to her.
Yeah, and PubMed. I mean, that's a great free resource that the National Institute of Health provides for us that is, too many people don't know about. So you can always find facts there that your doctor is going to respect. And then I'm trying to think of, there's several people, that are for women's health. Dr. Mercola, always mentioned on Quack Watch. Some people really don't like him, but what I like about his website, it's the #1 website for health. So, there's something to be said for that, but he does link sources at the bottom of his articles. So that's what I really like about it. I can go directly to the real information and make an informed consent based on that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And for anyone who is intimidated by the idea of hopping on PubMed to try to find some resources for their doctor, there are people like Terri and like myself who can help you navigate that. So you can always find the information that you need. You do just have to reach out to someone and to be searching for that.
Yeah. It takes a lot of time to comb through stuff on PubMed. And I would only do that unless you're really, really interested. Or like I said, if you want to go armed to your doctor. If you've got any resistance and they're not, willing to look at it, they'll always look at peer-reviewed literature.
Yes.
They don't have time, unfortunately, to look at it themselves. Doctors are under so much time constraint now. And, at the industry, they're pressured to only spend a certain number of minutes with each patient. So that's another reason you have to be your own advocate.
Yeah, that is a great philosophy for people to have the idea of working with their doctor and to help educate their doctor as well, and to be helping to bring that information to your provider instead of assuming that your provider is going to do that research. I think it's something like 15 minutes is spent with each patient. It's a very short amount of time.
If that. Yeah, I know some of them are limited to 10.
Wow. Oh, that's crazy. So in your opinion, what are some really common habits that contribute to people developing some of these hormonal imbalances in the first place?
Oh gosh, I would say stress has to be #1. And I know I did some of that to myself. So just excess cortisol in your system starts a tremendous hormonal cascade. And again, little changes make huge differences. So if you are continually having excess cortisol, you're throwing all your other hormones out of balance. Diet is important. If you're not eating enough protein or the right fats, you don't make hormones. The sugar, excess refined carbs will throw your hormones out of balance. And exercise is pretty important.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, basic lifestyle really should be setting us up for good health.
Yeah, it should. There's a lot of environmental toxic stuff we have to deal with, but if you're giving your body the right support, it's designed to deal with all that.
So where can women start if they want to take some more natural approach in their hormonal health? Do you have any advice for someone kind of just thinking about these ideas and just getting started?
Well, I think the lifestyle habits that I mentioned, would be the easiest place to start. Those are the basics. Just, eat a nutrient-dense whole food diet, drink lots of water, exercise regularly, and manage your stress. It's just, something I can't emphasize enough because it affects so much in our body. And if we just, it's kind of the serenity prayer, what can you control? If you look at something and you can change it, then take action. If you can't, just let it go, because worrying isn't going to do any good. And don't try to multitask. Multitasking is something that our society values almost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really horrible for your brain. And it just increases your stress level. Instead of doing a lot of things well, you're doing a lot of things not so well, as opposed to focusing on one thing at a time and doing it really well and keeping those neural pathways going like they should.
Yeah, you're right. And you can feel it in your body when you're trying to multitask and you've got 10 different things going at once. You tense up. You can feel that stress in your body.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. Any other stress reducing tips we can share with the audience? Because that's such a huge one that can be kind of difficult to pin down for people.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in meditation. Just kind of getting that mind still, kind of shutting out the noise that's out there that we all have to deal with. Yoga. I've never done Tai Chi, but the research on Tai Chi is good, especially for fibromyalgia. But yeah, yoga is a great, if somebody's just getting back into trying to exercise, a gentle yoga class would be a great place to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've tried Tai Chi once or twice, and I think you can kind of tell if you are the kind of person who tends to be ramped up and really needs to de-stress if within the first 10 minutes you're like, I cannot do this. This is too slow. That's a good sign that you really need to go slow.
Yeah. Slow down. My mother once gave me this little tortoise that was battery operated, and he sings this crazy song, "Slow down, you move too fast."
Oh, cute.
Moment last, and every once in a while I play that thing just as a reminder.
I might need to get one of those for my desk. I could definitely use that reminder a few times each day.
Sure.
So what is the main takeaway you want for people to really understand from this interview? Say someone is in the position that you were a few years ago. What do you really want them to understand from this?
Be your own informed health advocate and stand your ground on testing. Get it done, because you won't know your baseline after surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So just advocate for yourself always.
Absolutely. So before I let you go, since Halloween is coming up and it's all about candy and sugar, which can definitely mess up our hormones, do you have a tip or a resource or recipe or something you can share with the audience to help everyone have a healthier Halloween?
Oh gosh. There's this thing you can find on Amazon called the Halloween Witch. And it's pretty cool. You take your kids' candy and you give them to the Halloween Witch, and then you get something in exchange for it so that your kids aren't eating it all. But I'm a teal pumpkin person. My grandkids have multiple food allergies. And so when you put a teal pumpkin out, that means that your house is safe for kids with food allergies. I used to do 100% fruit leathers, but the kids seem to like non-food treats better.
Oh, really?
The dollar store, and I get stickers and glow-in-the-dark tattoos, card games, just little things like that, and they get to pick whatever they want out of the basket. They seem to really like it.
That's great. I don't know if I had heard of the teal pumpkin.
Oh, yeah. It's just starting to get a little more awareness. I think I probably heard about it first through the gluten-free community.
Sure. Yeah. How great would that be, though, if you are a kid who knows that gluten is going to, disrupt them later on, and you see that teal pumpkin, and you can get a treat and not have some bad consequences later.
Yeah. It's for more than just gluten. It's the allergies, too. Yeah. My grandkids, they still love to get dressed up and go door to door, but most of their candy that comes home, they don't get to eat it.
Yeah.
That's where the Halloween Witch would come in handy too, is put it out there for her and then she brings you something else instead.
Yes, that's great. That's great. A little trade-off situation
Yeah.
there. Bartering.
Yep. You have to do that with kids.
Yeah. Well, we will link to some of these resources. I'll edit this post so anyone watching now can have those links, and anyone who sees this later on, I'll link to some of the people that you mentioned for hormonal health, and I'll see if I can find the Halloween witch, and we'll link to that as well for people.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. This was fantastic.
It was great. Take care.
All right. We'll talk to everyone soon.